Now, you're very welcome to part 2 on my What Matters programme with Billy Maguire and Kappa in County Limerick. And as one reporter did say that in all his years of reporting and journalism, he never saw the topic of politics among young and elderly alike so common that everyone is talking about Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil, Sinn Féin, which, what, and all the permutations of forming a government. But going back to Billy, you were saying that you, of course, have no animosity in any way to De Valera or to Collins.
No, I have not, or anybody else for that matter.
Yes, of course.
But the importance is trying to explain, and it needs to come out, why we're paying for that. Why are people paying that British war debt and war pensions? If you give the oath of allegiance,
yes.
I'm asking all those, including Sean O'Farrell, who refused to give the oath of allegiance to the state, is it to the and those judges have to be asked, what oath are you giving when you go into court?
Yeah.
Is it to the sovereign Dáil government, by the will and wish of all the people of the 32 counties, that doesn't have any debt and owes no money? Or is it to the Free State of the 6th of December 1921 that King George V, the British government and the Crown Forces imposed British war debts and war pensions that you're paying for? That's where your money is going.
Now, I have a layman's question, and maybe a lot of people might even ask this question. But why did Eamon De Valera and Michael Collins, why did they agree to all of this then for this war debt?
But this caused the Civil War.
This caused the Civil War.
This is what caused the Civil War.
Okay.
As I said, Michael Collins on the 21st of January was Minister for Finance.
Yes.
On the 6th of December, he was only Provisional Minister. We only have Leinster House was bought to set up. Well, I told you, Michael Collins went down with the Free State.
Yes.
And those judges, they're in that book, Money for Ireland, if you want to get their names. And bought the lease for Leinster House from the Royal Dublin Society. That's crucial. But IRB Sinn Féin, who founded the state and paid for all this and had all those volunteers gave their lives for, they wouldn't take their seats in Leinster House.
Right.
And out of that came Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, Labour, Provisional Sinn Féin and Republican Sinn Féin. They all came out of IRB Sinn Féin. But and this is what's crucial. That's why I keep on asking your politician, what oath of allegiance? If he gave the oath of allegiance to the sovereign Dáil government, Sean O'Farrell, last Thursday, right? Yes. We would have our sovereign Dáil government with no debt. We'd be the only state in the world that doesn't have a debt. And why? And he refused to give it. He gave a declaration. That's not a legal term. Declaration is nothing.
Sure, I can make a declaration now.
You can't
and
do
it's
anything.
Not binding.
It's not binding. It's nothing. He refused to give, and you just what you do is you go into all those. You just send an email to Ceann Comhairle at oireachtas.ie and ask for the declaration that the Ceann Comhairle Sean O'Farrell gave last week, and that means he doesn't get any. We're the only country. If he had given the declaration to the Free State, which has gone anyway, since the 16th of March 2017, when Queen Elizabeth abdicated and when she signed Article 50 of Brexit.
Brexit.
And under the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland, England and Ireland and Scotland, and took Ireland out of the EU. At the moment, we don't have a government. We don't have any law, and where are we going?
But then that looks like then as if our own government and political parties are not aware.
They are aware.
They are aware, aren't they?
But they're keeping it from the people. They have to be aware.
Right.
But they are deliberately. You see, they never thought Brexit would happen.
Okay.
They always thought we're going to have a free state. We're going to be part of Britain. We're going to have the 6 counties. It'll be 26 or 6. It's never going to change. And suddenly it changed with Boris Johnson.
Yes.
And I wrote about the border down the
Correct.
RC.
Yes, the RC.
And that's put in place. And we have to, in Europe, General de Gaulle wouldn't allow Britain into Europe. Do you remember the time of the EU and all that?
Correct.
And the common market and all that?
Yes.
Because Britain didn't have a sovereign government. We have explained about Henry VIII taking Britain. That only Christians believe that only the Pope in Rome, Christ, can anoint a sovereign. And he said that he fell out of the Pope and he declared that he had no longer any interest in the Pope, Diamant, he was equal to God, he didn't need him. So they have a sovereign government, sovereign courts and a crown force. That's what Britain has. They don't have sovereignty. And if the Queen was sovereign, they couldn't have they couldn't have that vote in England for Brexit,
Right.
because people who are subjects to the crown, they're not entitled to a referendum, and that's the difference. She would, if she was the sovereign, is the only one who could declare whether Britain stays or leaves the European Union.
Right.
And I wrote all that to in 2016.
Yes.
To the EU, and but the important thing now is that people ask your politician, what oath of allegiance are you giving? If you give the oath of allegiance to the sovereign Dáil government, that only in 1919, 1920, and then they brought in the Free State.
Yes.
So it couldn't have a debt,
Right.
Physically, it couldn't have any debt, and we don't have any debt.
But I'm still shocked that over 100 years later,
we're still paying it.
we're still paying it.
And that's
I mean, do the Irish people really, do they know this?
And why can't they read it like everybody else can read it? That's a scandal. And that's what we're trying to say. And I wrote a letter. Well, John had to write it because I've had my cataracts done.
Yes.
On the Friday, the election was on the Saturday, right?
Yes, correct.
And he registered the letter to Mary Lou MacDonald to take that oath of allegiance that I read out there, that all the first sovereign Dáil government took. If she took that oath of allegiance in the Mansion House, in the Round Room, she would be president of Sinn Féin.
Right.
And we would have the sovereign Dáil. Her oath of allegiance would be to that sovereign Dáil government that has no debt.
Did she reply to that?
She didn't reply to it.
Right.
And we're still waiting for it.
Right.
But the point of the whole issue is there is an opportunity now. And if she did it, all the others, because it's so easy to change Leinster House after all these years, we would take down the flag they have and we would take the Senate away, take the sovereign seal, to turn their back on the sovereign seal. That's treason. And to put that gold braiding round our tricolour flag, that's a British Admiralty gold braiding flag, and that's a Ford colour. And take that out. We have our sovereign flag over the courts.
Yes.
Put two sovereign seals up on the four courts. I mean, they're not properly aligned. That's I said about the carried here, the 2 5-stringed harps.
Yes,
that's what they represent.
Yes.
And then you have the country that is the mandate we were given. That mandate has to be implemented. And if I don't, and I'm saying it now today, if I'm told by Europe that because we can't sit in Europe now.
Yes.
Because you have to have a sovereign government. And I believe that Enda Kenny was brought to Europe. Now, I have no proof of it because I don't have the letters that brought him to Europe.
Yes.
But after that, we heard Dáil Éireann, and sovereignty, because he was asked, where's your sovereignty?
Right.
And where's it coming from? Sovereignty only comes from Dáil Éireann. You see what the rest is. Look, you can read the oath of allegiance to the crown here. And we said about Boris Johnson's government, they all had to give, before they sat in Westminster, to give their oath of allegiance to the crown and to sit in Britain.
Yes.
Whereas ours don't give any allegiance. It's a sham and a scam and a fraud, enriching themselves. That's what they're doing. But they're not accountable to anybody. If they gave that oath of allegiance to the state, the Sovereign Republic of Éire, to Dáil Éireann, the Dáil Éireann courts, they would be accountable to you because you're the sovereign.
Question for you, layman's question again. Why don't they, Billy?
Because they don't. That's what They are in the Free State Parliament,
Yes.
as we know, and we've explained how it was set up, why it was set up, and
Yeah.
we explained about Collins, and we
Yes.
explained now he betrayed the Sovereign Republic of Ireland on that day. But he said it himself, and he was saying that this was only for 2 years.
Right.
It's still going on. Dáil Éireann has never sat in Leinster House. And they're using, they can't even, you see, there's no sovereign seal, look,
Yes.
with air underneath it. They can't even use that because it's treason under the Crown. Because the Crown made Dáil Éireann an illegal assembly. And they're sitting in it, and it's time this was sorted out. We have a
Yes.
sovereign
It is,
government.
actually. Well, that debt shouldn't be paid.
It shouldn't be paid, and this is why I'm looking for. The Free State say that they're owed 205 billion. If we got that, and the point is that money that they should be collecting should be going to schools and hospitals
Right.
and houses,
Now I see
rather
the
than
point.
going to pay off Britain's war debts and war pensions. And that's what it. That's
But
what it is.
with all the successive prime ministers, Taoiseach, that we've had, or Taoiseach, that we've had over 20 years, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years, but why didn't they?
They didn't.
But why didn't they? Why didn't they take
Because
the will of the Irish people?
well, that's what they
Like
should
what's
have
happening
done.
now.
That's what we're doing. And when I rang the Leinster House.
Yes.
And I rang the door
Yes.
on the Wednesday and the Thursday, and they came back. And I asked them, what oath of allegiance do the politicians give and do the government give to the state, the
Yes.
sovereign republic?
Yes.
And there was consternation inside the door. And I said, well, come back with it. They came back with the answer. They don't give any. You have to have courts properly administered.
So it seems
And
then,
probably-
in my own limited knowledge, that the Dáil Éireann and the Senate and all the other institutions are not legal.
They're not legal. Dáil Éireann is a legal assembly, but it never sat in Leinster House. That's the
Right.
point of the whole issue.
Now,
And what we're trying to do is ratify all those things properly. That they should be. Why shouldn't we have a proper?
but we
Dáil
shouldn't
Éireann
be
government?
paying a debt to
And
England.
why should we be paying a debt to England or anybody else? And why should they not be claiming all that territory? Now, when and I have to say, I said that Michael Collins, now there were great people in the War of Independence.
Yes, of course, yes.
But he betrayed when he did that, went down, and that's why he was executed.
You feel that, yeah.
Yeah, well, it's all in the vaults hotel papers.
Yes.
If the University of Limerick ever give them back or give them to the
Yes,
people
yes.
can read them. But De Valera then was brought to America in 1919 by the IRB and the Fenian Brotherhood.
Mm-hmm.
And when he saw 25,000 people at gatherings alone all over America and all the money they had collected, was James McGuire collected
Yes.
money. And all that money was collected to set up the sovereign Dáil Éireann government.
Okay.
And that's where it came out of. And he betrayed that as well. He betrayed the sovereign Republic of Ireland, the sovereign Dáil Éireann government, and the sovereign by the will and wish of all the people. And he used that money to set up Fianna Fáil and the Irish press.
I see what you mean.
And Britain had no money to set up the Free State, and they used that money to set up.
So they had a claim on that as well.
That's the money now that was collected for setting up the sovereign Dáil Éireann government. And
In other words, what you're saying, it was misused,
It was
misdirected.
it was. And Common Gael used it to set up Fine Gael.
Yes.
We had a sovereign government, it was IRB Sinn Féin,
Fully funded.
fully funded. The whole thing was paid for. And James McGuire, who was chairman of Friends of Irish Freedom, that was who collected the money. He resigned over it, and he was chairman of it, of the corruption that went on. And Woodrow Wilson nearly had a heart attack in America over the whole thing when he saw, each gathering, over 25,000 people at each gathering, all over America. And this was, they couldn't take it. But the point I'm saying to you is, look, we have a sovereign government.
Yes.
Now, we have, they said they're going for the 33rd Dáil Éireann.
Correct.
And all on last Thursday, we heard Sean O'Freel talking about Dáil Éireann.
Yes.
That's propaganda, lies and deception.
Okay.
Because Dáil Éireann never sat in Leinster House. Britain made it an illegal assembly
Yes.
to impose that, to collect that war debt. That's what the Free State, and it's still there today. Those that pretend and use the tricolour flag and all that, your politicians, there's none of them a member of Dáil Éireann. They can be a member of Dáil Éireann if they take the oath of allegiance to the Sovereign Republic of Éire, the Sovereign Dáil Éireann government, the Sovereign Dáil Éireann courts, and the War of Independence. They don't have to take that because that's all over. But we have it, and they are then accountable to you, the sovereign citizens, and Dáil Éireann. That's who to the Dáil Éireann courts. That's their allegiance. And all
Yes.
this whole thing of roaring and shouting at Mary Lou and she's in this and she's that and the IRA. We'll speak about the IRA and we'll speak about Drew Harris, the Commissioner.
Okay,
And I
we'll just take another quick break with part 2 of What Matters here with Billy Maguire. And I just think that the information being imparted by Billy is just mind-boggling. And
Well, it's
really
very
very
sad,
serious questions have to be asked. We'll come back with you very, very shortly.
Have you enough